All right. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. Mostly shittage. How's it going?
Greatly. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Shittage and I go way back. So this is our first official Flow governance meeting, first governance working group inaugural meeting. We were hoping to have a Bluebird and Diego and Vishal join us this morning, but they're doing other things, so we will look forward to seeing them next time. Probably a pretty quick agenda today, but let's get into it. So I'm gonna move this into a next step introduction section as well for the folks that aren't here today. But for today, I guess we can start with ourselves. Shittage, why don't you go first? Because I've already been chatting. Would you mind introducing yourself and your interests in the Flow Governance Working Group?
Yeah, sure. So I am a product manager at Flow. Mainly work on the protocol side, looking after tokenomics and governance. And I've been here for about a year. Previously, I was doing a product role with Amazon. Uh, and over the past few years, I've kind of been deeply involved in the Web3 ecosystem as an entrepreneur, as a past economist. And that has kind of enabled me to think very deeply about a ton of like issues surrounding economics of a blockchain, how blockchain needs to be governed from a decentralized or community-driven perspective. And I'm hoping to sort of bring up some of those issues that I've sort of seen in the past 5 years of my life, as well as in the last 1 year at Flow, to this group, and hope to kind of get to some good solutions. Over to you, Ben.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Well, let's definitely chat about your the past 3 years work you're doing as an economist at some point in more detail with folks, because it would be great to know the details of that. But great background. Thanks so much for being here, Shittage. So glad that you're here to help us with governance. Sorry. Hi, folks. I'm Lane. I am one of the co-founders of Flow. I have been with this project since it was a CryptoKitty scaling problem, and I've been thinking about tokenomics and governance. Oh, folks, great to see you.
Hey, Vishal.
Sorry for being late.
Hello, no problem. And Johnny, lovely to see you also, sir or madam. Hello. Welcome. We actually just got started, and we were. Hey, Johnny. So good to see you. How's it going?
Hi, Johnny.
Hey, Lane. Yeah, how's it going? Hey, guys.
Hey.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. Welcome.
I see like all we are coming from DevPro, right? Like nobody else than me are coming from community side actually. So let me do some introduction. Like this is Johnny from Increment. So we are building the DeFi protocols on Flow for a while. Yeah.
Sorry, what did you say the project was?
Oh, sorry. This is Johnny from Increment. So we are building.
Sorry.
Protocols on Flow.
Hey, so good to have you. Welcome. We just got started, and indeed, we are just building out the roster of folks joining the call. So yeah, really good to have community perspective. Thank you so much for joining. We actually just got started, and we're sort of going through formal intros for the sake of this recording. But maybe we can. Do you mind if we just start over for the sake of, because I think Johnny would probably really benefit from hearing your background. And I'll just start out at the beginning. Yeah, we just got started, folks.
Okay, so I'll start over again. Hey, Johnny. Hi, everyone. I'm a product manager on Flow's protocol side. I mainly work on the tokenomics and governance aspects. I've been here for about a year. And previously, I was a product manager at Amazon. I've been deeply involved in the Web3 ecosystem for about past 3 to 5 years, I would say. Primarily sort of thinking about blockchain networks from an economics perspective, because that has been my background. That is what I've sort of studied and done in the first few years of my life. But here in the governance group, I'm very excited to sort of bring up the issues that I think the community faces as we kind of think about decentralizing Flow further and making it more and more sort of driven by the people, for the people. I think those issues are the ones that I want to sort of discuss with the group, and I'm very excited to look for solutions in this space. Over to you, Lane.
Thanks. Hey folks, I'm Lane. I'm one of the co-founders of Flow. I've been with the project since it was a scaling CryptoKitties problem, and have previously spent most of my time thinking about how the protocol works, how the sort of developer experience was going to work, how the community was going to evolve. But governance has been a word that I had the distinct pleasure of writing on every single board for every conversation that we ever had Flow. We always had a governance problem in question. And it was always the problem in question that we said we could address later when people were sort of interested in weighing in on what was happening. And so it's been, CryptoKitties was 2017 and it's 2023. So 6 years later, I am truly overwhelmed with joy to be able to have this conversation with all of you, because I think the commitment to just starting to solve these problems in a meaningful way and taking them off the whiteboard as like to-do laters is going to make a really big difference for some of the problems that we've seen in the ecosystem. So my background prior to this was I studied finance, kind of came from more like an economic background similar to Shittage, and have been thinking about these problems more from a social context in the past couple of years, because I really think governance is a social problem more than a technical one. And so I've just sort of in the last 6 years, while we've been putting a pin in the technical parts of this problem, which we felt were solvable, I've been really trying to observe how people organize themselves in coordinated communities for good outcomes. So excited to sort of bring that to this group. Like I said, have been thinking about this for a long time, but I also have never endeavored to answer any of these questions without folks like all of you. So I'm just humbled and so grateful that you're here and happy to help answer these questions. So I have absolutely no ego or preciousness about anything that's here now or anything or the way that things should be. To me, this is just a very interesting academic and industrial query into organizing people. So excited to start it with all of you. I didn't take notes on my own bio, but I'll add some notes after when we paste these notes. And Vishal, could you share an intro with us?
Absolutely. Hey folks, I'm Vishal. I'm also a product manager for the core Flow protocol team. I joined Dapper Labs in 2019. Now, of course, I'm part of the Flow Foundation. When I joined initially, I joined as an engineer, and initially I worked on the networking layer of Flow. And then I was also involved in a lot of node operations. So that's how I kind of transitioned eventually to a product manager role. I really look forward to this governance working group, because I would really love for having a community-driven approach to node operation. It's been kind of a hit or a miss right now. It's been partially community-driven, partially not. And this is like a great opportunity, just like transition to be a fully blown community-driven node operation process. And before joining Flow and before joining Dapper Labs, I was at Akamai as an enterprise architect. So I was more like a consultant on different Akamai projects. What else? Yeah, just excited to have this meeting, kick this thing off.
Sorry, Vishal, how do you spell the previous project name? Akamai?
Akamai, Akamai. Yeah.
Sorry, what was the title? I missed it.
I was an enterprise architect.
Thank you. Awesome. And Johnny, thanks so much for jumping in quick with an intro that you're working on Increment, but would love to hear sort of, just like a little bit about your background and your interests in governance, and if there's any, we'll definitely have a chance to talk about like issues that you're seeing in the community, but if you wanted to flag something like that now, you can totally bring it up as well.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for coming here. So I do not like open my cameras because I just come back from the gym. So like a little bit background information about me. Like we are working on Flow for quite a long time. Like we built a suite of DeFi protocols, including the DEX and also specific token pipe to token borrowing and lending, and also Flow liquid staking. And yeah, and more things going on. So before that, like I worked as software engineer in Google. But like my journey into crypto actually dated back to when crypto kitty the phone in end of 2017. I also purchased a lot of kitties on Ethereum. Yeah. So yeah, so that's a kind of a brief introduction for myself. We can talk more things regarding the issues we see either on our self side or on the community side, actually, which is we think the views outside of the DAPR, outside of the Flow Foundation. So I think it represents some of the community voices and other things like maybe our personal suggestions also. Yeah, we can discuss these things later in the meeting. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I'll just add a point for it here for us to come back to it. Thanks so much, Johnny. Great background, and so awesome that you've been with us. Shredded and I were just talking about how it's so fun to like still find people out in the world who found their way through CryptoKitties and are still around. So yeah, thanks so much for being here. So I think that's the governance working group for now. The membership here is going to change, and Johnny, just like in terms of expectations or anything like that, the most important thing is just that people bring issues when they have them, I think, and that they contribute solutions when they can. But if you can't, that's fine. So this doesn't need to be strict membership. If there's times you can't come, or for any of us, that's totally fine. The purpose really, it's a decentralized system. So we're going to set up a format, and then every month, whoever can make it will be here to keep moving things along. So hopefully we like establish a really great core group here of people who know the material pretty intimately and understand it to advocate for solutions. But I think we can keep this really flexible for it to evolve the way that it needs to. So I mentioned that because Diego isn't here today, but hopefully they get a chance to join, and we'll be happy to have them then. And there's no sort of preference of how long people have been here, I don't think. Okay, two sort of very tactical things. Meeting cadence does monthly. I propose that we have this the last Tuesday of every month at this time for about an hour. Are there any suggestions or asks about moving the time either to more or less than monthly or a different time during the week?
I had one suggestion, Lane. That totally works. One day a month, but there are times when sometimes we need like faster decisions, and I was wondering if there would be a way to like have an ad hoc meeting once in a while on request.
Yeah, great point. I guess that kind of comes to the question of like, what's the governance group's role? Because
Oh, sorry, a quick question. Like, I would merge the two meetings. I know there's another tokenomics working group, Kishe, we started a few months ago. So, but after that, like, there's no further meetings going on. So I don't know, like, what is the plan for that? Like, are we gonna decide to merge these two things into the whole governance meeting, or like what?
yeah, great question.
Let me quickly jump in on that. Thanks, Johnny. So we did have the kickoff meeting, and I remember you were a part of that. Tokenomics working group will continue to function as a separate working group. We are just kind of working on like a standardized cadence and standardized structure for all the working groups. Sorry. I'll just continue. So we are currently working on like a standardized approach to setting up, instituting, running, organizing all these different working groups. So TWG is going to be a separate working group. I will organize a meeting for that very soon. But governance working group is sort of a new working group, and we are trying to think about like a monthly cadence for the meetings that GWG should have. I think TWG is kind of, like we discussed, it was better suited for everyone that we only have quarterly meetings. But again, like very similar to what Vishal pointed out, like we will have, there is a possibility to have ad hoc meetings for urgent discussions. And feel free to whenever you feel there's a need for an ad hoc meeting, feel free to post that on the Discord channel that we have for TWG. But otherwise, I will plan a meeting for that in November, next month.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Awesome. And thanks for answering that, Shij, because I think you also gave us our answer for the process for ad hoc meetings. Maybe the best way for us to, if it's urgent, something that's kind of async but real time for people would indeed be, yeah, like a group chat. The Discord channels we're trying to use. So yeah, probably having a Discord channel for governance and then like a just adhere protocol if there's something really critical would work. And then we can, just whoever is available can issue an invite kind of thing. Does that work?
Absolutely, yes. We should set up that channel after this meeting, like maybe in the next week or so.
So, oh my gosh, Notion won't let me say add here without trying to link a page. And just some examples of things that might be critical. If a new node operator is needed, the next epoch, switch over probably. Is that what you're getting at, Vishal? Is there another one you think of? Yeah. Any other? Well, I mean, conceivably, like if we thought there was a fork or something and we needed to get all the service account signers together. So yeah, so like fork coordination in case of chain divergence.
Sure.
So will the service account, quick question on that, like will the service account be fully owned by the governance working group? And because like then in that case, all the signers must definitely be a part of this group, which we don't know if that's the case right now. Like how would the two work together is what I want to understand.
Yeah, so the service, and Johnny, are you familiar with the notion of the service account, or would some context be helpful?
I think we know details about that. Yes, okay, we can go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so the service account practically, I think, would continue to be run by the same people, which is like a varying group of, like the people here who are on that signing account and can represent governance, and then as well as the protocol team who'd be dealing with like the actual fork and like block height coordination and stuff. So I think it's fine for them to stay separate, and the governance group's job is just to support coordinating, coming to a decision about for the service accounts. Like the service account is still the one in charge of signing, and we leave the signers as they are, but the governance working group supports making sure that if that happens, enough people, like we have enough people to come and co-sign, we have alignment that there is a fork or that like a change needs to be made at the last second. And so the governance group, I think, is just responsible for getting community buy-in and alignment into the process, but we still use all the same technical processes that we would normally. So the service account stands, and we just support the executing of the service account. But I don't think there's reciprocity there. I don't think they need to be involved in the governance working group. They just trust that we'll make sure that the process that we're running supports their like 5 of 7 signing scheme, or more if it extends to being more. That's not an official answer or anything, though. That's just my suggestion. So if anyone has other thoughts, happy to hear them.
That does make sense to me. Yeah.
I just summarize that as not owned but operationally supported by governance working group. The service account will continue to function as normal. We have requests from governance working service intelligence. So like if we decided that a vote needed to pass on changing transaction fees, we'd be able to go to them and be like, hey guys, transaction fees need to change. Governance working group and tokenomics working group agree. Will you help us sign the transaction, as an example? Okay. So it sounds like monthly and the time works for everybody, and then ad hoc would be in Discord. Anything else to say about meeting cadence? Okay, existing priorities. So there are two things for sure that have come up for this group to address pretty imminently, and then existing issues that you're seeing, Johnny. I would love to hear them, as well as someone named Bluebird brought up a number of maybe not governance related issues, but I think we maybe will be the first touch point for a lot of, well, sorry. So as we talk about priorities, maybe we should also align on like the scope and the work of the governance working group. The purpose of all of us being here is ensuring that change can happen where it needs to in the protocol, and there being like a formal process to enact change that isn't just strictly defined by like who the biggest token holder is or who is like quote unquote in charge. So like really trying to support this being a fully decentralized system where decision making can happen in different corners of the ecosystem, and that change can be enacted even if another group hasn't been involved. So the two issues that are coming up about that are permissionless node operation, because obviously technically having lots of people running nodes all around the world is really important to being able to support like a fully permissionless decentralized system. And then formally voting on things like transaction fees is also coming up. So we have this CAS tool, which is in sort of the early iterations of becoming the on-chain voting tool, but it needs some requirement gathering, I would say, to determine how it'll best serve our purposes as the governance group and like the ecosystem overall. However, there is also, and this comment from Bluebird, if y'all can see my screen, is indicative. There's a whole bunch of issues the community is facing and the ecosystem is facing that fall through the cracks of other initiatives and priorities. So like the Cadence group, you know, it's clear that they're supporting programming features. The tokenomics working group, it's pretty clear that they have like the mandate of existing tokenomic levers, but there's all these other problems that people don't really know what to do with, like what Bluebird's identifying here. And it's everything from like, in this case, he's kind of just concerned about Discord. Here we're talking about flow price. Here we have some questions about the foundation and like which projects are being invested in. And then again, a question about Discord. And so it seems that there's an ask for this group to also be a bit of a catch-all for like prioritizing different problems in the ecosystem and finding ways for them to be answered. But yeah, it's possible that that'll make the scope of this balloon really quickly. So would love to know if there are any things sort of from Bluebird's list or y'all's list that you want added to the priorities of the governance working group beyond the permissionless node operation and voting at this stage. Or is there anything that you want to flag as like, we should not be dealing with this, someone else, it should be in a different group?
Yeah, from what Bluebird has said, I feel like those, like especially the second point, is not something we can address as part of this group.
Yeah, so who is meant to address that? Because that's definitely the questions that everybody's asking. Who's going to worry about flow token price?
So at the most, we can have like, we can give an update on what's happening. If that doesn't directly addresses it, but at the best, we do put out a lot of material addressing what's happening with Flow, what's coming up. Also, like both natively on the Flow protocol and also on the community side, like what are community building and everything. We are more than happy to like share those success metrics. If probably like a dashboard or something would solve the problem, I'm more than happy to kind of work through that and put up that. Of how many dApps are there, what's the transactions. I really don't know how we could address anything beyond that.
Yeah, let's maybe not get to solutioning just yet. Sorry. So you are saying that there is indeed, you think it would be reasonable for us to update people on what could be happening that would impact the token price? Okay, so let's just leave it as that sort of like scope statement for now, but then we can come back to whether or not a dashboard is possible solutions. I don't know that a dashboard is it, but let's maybe just
sharing information, I would say.
First.
Sharing information, if that could be a dashboard or a blog or something else.
Okay. Shidaj, were you going to say something?
Yeah, no, just generally like about all the questions that Bluebird has pointed out. I think since those questions have come straight to the governance working group in a way on the forum post, I think we should be responding to those questions, all of them. But I think our responsibility is not to like think about the answers, but to fetch the answers. So if there is like a Twitter account that needs to be set up for Flow Foundation, etc., perhaps we'll coordinate with the marketing with Luke internally, and then like fetch an answer on this, and then ultimately share it with Bluebird. So I think kind of coordinators of information in this case, especially if we feel like one of the topics or like one or more of the topics are not in the roles and responsibilities of the governance working group, and I think many of them are not. I just like can't pinpoint like if exactly like something is under the vicinity of the GWG or not. But I think as the governance working group, we have to at least like coordinate with different folks and provide the best answers which are sort of compiled from different.
Okay. I'm gonna. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of how best to reflect your comment in the notes here. So, yeah, and scope. Okay, so I think I like 90% agree with that, with the exception that I think in the case where it's clear that there isn't a good answer, it is our job to figure out how we're going to drive the core team to an answer. Like I think the role of governance really is like facilitating processes for problems to get solved that aren't otherwise being solved. And so in the case of like the second one, for example, we maybe will need to do more than just find an answer because we're just not meaningfully solving. Like to Vishal's problem or point, maybe the answer is a dashboard, maybe it's something else, but we do have a clear issue here and no clear solution. And so in that case, I think the governance working group's role would probably be more active. Would you agree with that, Kshitij, in the absence of another actor?
That's fair. Yeah. Like I think I still kind of believe that the question is, what are we exactly doing to make sure that the community is confident about the Flow network and ultimately the Flow token? And we are doing a ton of things. And I feel like in the first draft of the answer, I would just like list down those things. And if there is a follow-up question, which is, how will this lead to sort of a higher price for Flow token, is when I would say, oh, we don't want to give a response to that, or like try to explain that further. But I think I liked what Vishal said about us having like a bunch of plans to at least restore confidence of people or of the community in the Flow network. Right. And happy to put that together for the first iteration, the second one.
Okay, so maybe I'll just add under this next agenda where we have started to talk about scope, and I'm calling it Project Restore Confidence, to your point, Kshitij. And so maybe next time we can, talk about like the right ways to frame things that are future facing. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So to go back to the existing priorities, we had these two. I wanted to ask actually if we felt like voting really was a priority, because I'm hearing from a lot of people that they won't vote / don't really care about voting. And the only plan is to use this as a soft consensus, not a binding consensus. And so frankly, I'm not seeing a huge benefit to a voting tool at the moment.
Okay, that's good to know, Lane. Also, I had something on the similar lines is to give you some background. We started working on cast in the last few months. I think we started July or August. Cast, just to kind of give everyone a background, Cast came as a project from Dapper Collectives. It was a project meant to like let anyone build a DAO on Flow and allow voting on different proposals. It's very much similar to Snapshot of Ethereum. And at one point, it kind of fell through the crack and no one was really maintaining it, but it was working nonetheless. And then we wanted to resurrect it as a primary tool for voting on Flow flips. So we put together this initial plan, the PRD plan that you see there, and it's basically divided in three phases. Phase zero was just kind of revamping the look and feel to kind of feel more flow-like. So the colors and everything should be more flow-like, and the UI should and it should also like change to kind of show that the focus for cast is primarily to vote on flips. It can still support DAOs, but that's not the primary focus because in the recent past there have been some really nice tools for DAO voting on Flow. So we don't really want it to compete on that space at all. We just primarily want a tool for allowing people to vote on flips that the Flow community puts out. So we finished phase zero. The revamp is now complete. However, one thing I realized that Cast is a completely off-chain voting solution. So while it does verify whether you have a Flow account or whether you have enough Flow tokens to vote, the vote itself is stored off-chain on a database. Phase one was primarily to make all of this voting on-chain. So instead of actually storing the votes off-chain, phase one would change Cast so that the vote is stored on-chain. However, and by the way, there's a team called Build Squad from the community who's working on this. They have given a grant. Flow Foundation has given them a grant for phase zero, and that's almost nearly complete now. And they have also, as part of phase zero, they have also like presented a design for phase one to make Cast completely on chain. However, I wanted to bring this up as a question for this group is basically, do we want Cast to be a fully on chain voting, or can it be this tool where the votes are still saved on chain, but it still verifies the balance is on chain? And just to give you some context, we looked at some other tools like Snapshot, and there was one more. All of them actually do the same thing where they verify using on-chain logic, but the votes are stored off-chain. So if it's not really that big of a deal, then we can not do phase one on Cast. But if we guys feel like it has to be on-chain, then we can initiate phase one and figure out how much grant we should be giving. Yeah. So that's a decision we need to make because the Build Squad team is done with phase zero and they are very enthusiastic of doing phase one. And they have given projected timelines for doing phase one is like 2 to 3 months. And the cost was around 90,000 US dollar, which would of course be paid as a grant using Flow tokens by the foundation.
Yeah, almost 200K Flow
Oh,
tokens.
200K, sorry. Yeah, in Flow tokens, right?
Inflow, yes.
Yeah, so that's a major decision that spending and yeah, would love to discuss that.
And this would also like just to add to that, this would also like when we think about pros and cons. I think one of the cons that I can think of is it also takes up some bandwidth from the core team. Essentially, maybe Vishal and I for now. And we do have priorities set up for the next 3 months in terms of the OKRs. So that is another thing to think about. And I think since I think one of the best tools in market is Snapshot that kind of allows decision making by the community, etc. It very clearly is an off-chain voting tool. just off-chain in the sense that Vishal described. They also advertise themselves as an off-chain voting tool. So it's like there is no like kind of shame in admitting that, oh, we are an off-chain voting tool, because that is how the market is currently functioning. That is where the market is currently. So just wanted to add that perspective as well.
I'm not sure the audience is the same though, is it? Because like like what we're talking about flips and protocol changes. We're not talking about like snapshots of community sentiment and interest. And so it's like, I think it's fine if the audience isn't voting on things that seem like they should be binding, but we're specifically targeting the content of CAST to be things that I think you would expect to have a bind. Like that, I don't know that the use case is quite apples to apples with Snapshot, because these are like, it's like voting on transaction fees. It's not voting on like, oh yeah, I'd rather have like a Bored Ape with a hat versus sunglasses or whatever, you know? So the best inclusion point is a good one, but like, you know, I just think the expectations of legitimacy and on-chainness are maybe different in those user cases.
That's fair. I think EIPs don't even have any sort of voting decision making right now. They usually form a working group of experts who kind of keep working on like new and new iterations of the EIP based on sort of community feedback on different platforms on social media essentially. And then it takes them years to kind of finalize one EIP. So I think we already are in a better position when it only comes to the proposals. But if we generally think about voting in the Ethereum ecosystem versus the Flow ecosystem, in that case, like maybe Snapshot is one of the tools which all the DAOs on ETH are using. So I'm sure like the DAOs have less important decisions compared to like the kind of decisions that we want to take for our protocol. Probably like less important decisions, but still like that's the best in the market today. When we think about like voting on Web3, Snapshot is the best tool available in the market. And when it comes to voting on protocol changes, at least for ETH ecosystem, I haven't come across any solid voting mechanisms which needs a tool which sort of does everything in a very quantitative manner.
Okay. All very good information. So in terms of next steps, we kind of need to answer two questions for Vishal. One, does the community need this? Or like, do we need this? And is it in the, I'll call it, is it the right expenditure of resources? Meaning like, is the budget and the cost going to work, assuming we need it?
Yes.
So it sounds like minimally we need the, sorry, folks. I'm not sure, should we answer this question or should we come up with like the process for answering this question? Because I can help us answer it, but I also am like kind of wondering if this is the kind of thing that we're meant to put to a broader group for. Is this the kind of thing we just make a call on as the governance working group, or what do you guys think?
Yeah, I was hoping that we could make a call and kind of decide on this, because this is pretty time sensitive now. The team, the Build Squad team, they've been doing a fabulous job, and I do want to give them a timely answer, and kind of I value that relationship, and also like I think it's prudent that we give them a answer hopefully this week or early next week. So if
I think what we could do, Vishal, just to help everyone like take a call on this, we could also share the sort of the design plan going forward, just in case like you would like to see, you know, what is going to change based on this work, and the cost is kind of already shared, and that kind of gives you the ability to sort of weigh the two. I think the second thing, and just proposing these things, like, which could help us reach a decision. Second is we just like create a small note and share it with the community, uh, uh, asking them sort of the importance of this, and whether we should kind of spend time, money over the next few months on this. Uh, we could like sort of do that on Discord, or probably like a small forum post. They already have a forum post going. We could just start off the discussion there. But I think uh, these 2 or 3 things or pieces of information might be very helpful.
Yeah, I would take that a step further, Kshitij, and say, could we ask them on the forum post to basically get the first 5 customers? And by customers, I mean like 5 other projects or people who are asking for on-chain voting. And if they find a bunch of people, hopefully more than 5, that are like, yes, please, I want this, then I think we should do it. If they can't come up with 5 people, then I fear we're in danger of doing something we often do, which is like build a tool that we expect people will need, but then they don't need it. We build it in advance of what they need, then it doesn't end up being the thing that they want, and we do it again over. So could we validate the need before? Yeah, basically, can we validate the need with people who are conceivably going to be providing requests for this on-chain voting service?
By customers, do you mean like voters, or voters which would be like any community member, or people who are actually going to propose flips and then take them to voting on the tool? Because there are like only 2 types of customers that I can think of, like proposers and voters, essentially.
Those are kind of in the same bucket for me. So one customer would be like a token holder who says, I want to vote on things and I want it to be on chain. And then the second would be projects, kind of like what you're describing here, where the DAOs are using the tool to, like, it would be sort of like a V2 of Snapshot, but projects that are like, yes, we are actually trying to find sentiment. It would be cool if it was binding, like we're trying to run Snapshot type things, and we would like if it was on chain. So yeah, those projects would be the second group of customers.
Yeah. Okay. I think one other thing, Vishal, like, please clarify that if I'm wrong. When we think about phase 1 of Cast, we are trying to think about on-chain voting only for flips.
Yeah, that's correct.
And we want to forget about like any other communities that people can form and then like sort of drive votes. Maybe that is phase 2 or something. But for phase 1, we are only thinking of like bringing in flips and taking them to vote.
Yeah, so the purpose of Cast is mainly for a voting tool for flips, basically. Nothing beyond that.
Yeah, like also a side question about like the positioning of the Cast. Like if it is only used for flips, then like personally, I don't think it is necessary to build such a tool. Like we just set up a Telegram group or Discord channel, like then we discuss things, and maybe then broadcast the videos or the proposal summary to the audiences, and we implement. That's it. So like I feel the value of Snapshot is like you can align the community side, and you can align the token holders or NFT holders, and you can even set up a block snapshot. So like for example, like you're holding the flow token before maybe block 11. Also, like, and then you can do a weighted voting based on that. Like, so that's at least for me, that is a major value of the snapshot voting. So back to my original question, like, what is the positioning of the Cast? Previously we saw that it is both for the let's say the governance team, and also both for the community and also for the ecosystem projects. Like for example, Flowverse, they have NFT socks. So the socks holders, they can vote on a few things that is changing their community and also changing the flow as a whole. So yeah, that is our previous thought. So that's why I think the Cast is valuable. But like if the conclusion is it's only for the flips, then yeah, personally I don't think it is necessary. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thanks for that. So since the time Cast was built, there have been like really better tools, I would say, that have been built, which allow DAO voting for like other things. So that's why we didn't wanted to like create yet another tool for like DAO based voting. But what we actually wanted was just to enable folks to vote on flips, and primarily using flow token in one way or the other, like either prove a flow account or prove how much stake you have. Again, it does support different strategies, but it's all flow based. And that's how we do want to keep the scope of cast to just that. And also I wanted to bring up one point here is there's kind of two things, and Johnny kind of alluded to this. There is like transparency, which is like making sure that we make decisions in a transparent manner. And then there is trust, which is like once that decision is made, whether or not those decisions are carried out or not. I don't think there is any deficit of trust here. Like, I don't think anyone kind of not trust the Flow Foundation to carry out the decision that was made. But I think what's missing was just the transparency in decision making and just the ease of logistics. That's the problem that Cost is solving, where it will make sure that the votes are transparent. Everyone can obviously see how the voting is going. And then once that decision is made, obviously the Flow Foundation is kind of like kind of binding on the Flow Foundation to kind of carry out that vote eventually. So I feel like the on-chain voting part would just was more like the trust issue, but the trust issue, I don't see that as a problem right now.
So I think we answered your question, buddy.
Yeah. I do want to point out the con that Bill Scott has done like a great job on phase 0, and they were super enthusiastic on carrying on phase 2 or phase 1. So it'll be a bit of a downer for them, but it is what it is.
Trust me, there's no bigger downer than launching a product that nobody cares about. So if we could, because like I just think it, and Johnny, like thank you so much for saying that, because it does, I think that's exactly the kind of input we need. And if people are not going to care that it's on chain, and if they're mostly like, if the to just point, if verifiability is enough and we already have that, then building a feature that nobody's going to use and care about is only going to make them more sad, even if they're feeling good about it right now. So I think what the good news is that we have a team that seems like they have 3 months availability, who understands how to build great stuff. And there's almost certainly other more interesting things we could ask them to build. But it seems like I should have summarized it well. Like Snapshot is best in class, and we have best in class if we're doing token verification, which we are, and storing it on chain, which we are, is my understanding. Sorry, off chain. And so it seems like that really might be okay for now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Awesome. That's the first decision that this group took.
Good job, everybody. High five. Boom. All right. Look at that. Making moves. Okay, so the second big topic was permissionless node operation and the selection process. And yeah, feel free to jump right in, Vishal.
Oh, sorry. Oh, wrong link. Okay. So there's kind of 2 sections to this. Number 1 is I do want to put together a node selection process for governance working group to kind of use as a template while selecting nodes. And when I say I mean, I'll just start the draft, but obviously I'll ask for more inputs. And then we could use that going forward when deciding whether or not we allow a new node operator to join in or an existing node operator to run more nodes. But that's still not started. I haven't started that yet. And it will take some time to kind of go through the iterations. That's number 1. And in the meanwhile, I've posted a link. There is a validator called Cont Node. They are very much interested in running a node. They have asked to run either a consensus node or a collection node, and they have submitted an issue where they have provided all the details about themselves and why they want to run a node. And this is also one of those pending decisions. They are in a situation where they have someone who holds the tokens, and that person came to conf node asking to run a node, and they also want to reply back to the person as soon as possible, or not it's possible to run a node. So we do want to reply back to conf node if we are okay for them to run a node or not.
Sure. Well, let's start making the node selection criteria with the first questions that I'm going to ask you. Does that work? Okay. Have they run a node on the Flow network previously? And the order of those would be access, verification, and then you can tell me what people typically run. I think it's something like this.
Yeah, I think you got it right.
Okay. So in the case of quant node, have they run any, let's say yesterday?
No, they have not run any Flow node, but they are running nodes for other chains.
Okay, so great. Let's make that the second question. Have they run a node on other networks?
Yeah.
Yes, no. If yes, which ones? So
Let me just paste. Something that you can just copy. Quite a few actually.
nice. And certainly there could be like and maybe if it was which ones, there could be like a weighting or number of other chains supported or something. You know what I mean? Like if they're clearly skilled and they've run ones on many other networks and they sort of have that kind of team has infrastructure set up to run nodes on multiple networks, right? So they'll probably be a stronger operator. So maybe we have like a multiplier if they've been with more than one to give them like a higher score or something.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, and then have they submitted a maybe we'll start at like the next thing that I'm going to wonder is like how engaged are they with the existing ecosystem? Like, will they be able to debug? So have they submitted a question on Discord, on GitHub? Then the evolution of that would be like, have they submitted pull request on GitHub or like something more formal to contribute, you know, rather than just like a question? Are those fair next questions?
Yeah. Can we also add, do they have, can they self-stake the minimum requirement? Or are they going to rely on a lease or like delegation to kind of reach that minimum?
I think the notion of leases is dead, isn't it? We don't do those anymore.
But we keep getting requests for leases. I don't know when was the last time we did a lease, but I would say quite recently.
That's actually kind of a, I'm going to call that an outstanding issue. Addressing node leases. So transitioning off old ones and replacement strategy requests. Do you mind if we just put a pin in that for a second, Shidij? Because
Sure.
the lease thing is like a whole ball of wax.
Yeah.
So maybe can I just for the sake of this, because we're trying to go to delegation, say, will they rely on delegation? And then we'll separately address the lease issue. We could later say, do they rely on like other funding maybe, but or I could add that. I don't think the external funding is allowed to be leases anymore, is my understanding. Okay, so are these, okay, next questions. Have they submitted a question on Discord, GitHub, the forum, I guess would be another one, and then a pull request?
No, not to my knowledge. And they submitted this issue. Like they reached out to me on Discord and I asked them to submit this issue, but that's probably the only interaction they've had on Discord.
Okay, so. And then have they submitted a pull request on GitHub? That's a pretty big ask. Has anyone even done that?
No, for sure, no.
Could we leave it as a question to get people to start thinking like that, or do you want me to take it out?
I feel like we should still keep it. Like we should give credit for that point. It's definitely a good to have.
But in the case of quant node, no.
No.
Okay. And then the other thing that we usually wonder about is, well, yeah, so we covered like technical, community, and funding, basically, in these A to F questions. Grade E.
I also kind of also ask for this number, which is asset under management. It's not like a deal breaker, but it kind of also shows kind of how entrenched they are in the crypto space.
Maybe I'll just
And I
say,
think, shall we also used to ask these operators, interested operators, like how they could contribute going forward to the community? I think that was a very interesting one that like helped us at least understand, like if there was when like during the time when there were leases, like at least we would take a decision on whether we could offer them a lease. But that also like sort of got us super interested if they could contribute to the community. They could publish some blogs. They could do a lot of tweets for us, things like that. So co-marketing involvement or something can be added.
yeah, maybe that's a separate question. Do they have broader assets under management? Are they offering a co-marketing opportunity to the ecosystem? Right, Shortage, that's kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah.
So in the case of quant node, do they have the minimum stake covered? Yes, because the client asked them, right?
Yes.
For collection and consensus, or do you know how much they have?
I think it was 600,000 flow.
Okay, I won't put that in here, but I was just wondering. Assets under other assets under management?
Yeah, they mentioned 35 million as assets under management.
Cool. And then offering a co-marketing opportunity.
This one, I don't think we talked about that specifically, but I can bring that up again. But yeah, as of now, they have not like committed anything to co-marketing.
Is there anything else that we would want to know if they were going to be running a node? Oh yeah, do they have dedicated on-call support for the node? Like, do they have a pager duty or something run up to make sure that they're not one of the lagging nodes when we spork, or if there's an emergency restart or something? Okay.
They did mention they do have that kind of a support, but they didn't share like on-call support yet.
Okay.
Like they do that for other chains, and they indicated they could do the same for Flow.
I'm satisfied if there is the existence of a support person. They don't need to literally sit at a desk all day and wait for Flow. They don't need to be a Flow support person just sitting there waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Is there anything else that we would want to know to consider if someone is a viable node operator?
No, I think that covers it. And there are some like table stakes, like they are not from like any of those countries such as like North Korea or something, and I'm sure they are not. They are from Turkey.
That actually, thank you, Vishal. That is such a good point that I didn't think of.
Yeah, what the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Like, yeah, do they add to the overall geographic and political decentralization of the network? That's what you're getting at, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that is such a good point, like 100%, because I would argue that a huge part of the reason we shouldn't be letting in more like North America nodes is that we already have we just have way too much infrastructure over here already and we don't need it. But if they're in Turkey, like, yeah, totally. That's phenomenal.
Let me double check though. I kind of lost my notes, but that's what I remember.
Yeah, it's okay. We don't necessarily have to answer this now because I think once we have a criteria, which we kind of do now, points A to I, we could conceivably put that on sort of like a matrix and give it weighting, like I mentioned, maybe they get more of a weight if they support a number of other chains. Maybe they get more of a weight if they add to political decentralization, and whereas some other things are more binary, where it's like if they've never run another node before ever, then like maybe that just kicks them out or something.
Fair enough.
Do we to go? I'm just cognizant of time. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, folks. We're 12 minutes over. I'm so sorry. Does anyone have somewhere they need to go?
No, that's okay. I mean, I don't. I'm totally fine being here. And Kshitij and I can kind of get those details that are not here from them.
Yes.
Okay. But so if we were able to sort of publish this as a framework and then, like come up with a weighting table, I think that would probably be a pretty, I mean, basically this is our node selection process, Vishal.
Sure.
I think it's just formalized a little bit. Could we maybe just identify together which of these are like absolutely must have versus more is better, but less is just, it doesn't count against you? Like to me, they have to have, they would not be able to run collection or consensus if they hadn't already run verification. I think that's still true based on the current security of the network, is right.
That is true. Yes, you're right.
Is
We
it,
do want-
is there a concern from them that they don't want to run a verification node because they don't want to spin up the infrastructure and then have the stake and unstake it, lose the rewards when they're moving it, kind of thing?
That, and also they were kind of persistent on saying that they want to run a consensus node specifically because as per them, like that's kind of the main node that contributes to block production. So they were persistent on they want to run a consensus node, but they could consider running a verification node instead.
Yeah, I would maybe just let them know the timelines on, like, probably we just need to explain, like, consensus nodes are available to people who are known to the ecosystem because they're currently not strictly permissionless at a protocol level.
Yeah.
But these folks are unknown to the ecosystem. So basically I would just give them the suggestion that like we can either have them as a verification node for a short period of time and then upgrade them later, or if they were willing to like submit some kind of pull request on behalf, if they like took a consensus node issue, for example, from an open repo and then contributed something or made clear that they had like a very clear understanding of the implications of a consensus node, then I think we could talk about it, but probably they'll prefer to just run a verification node than try and contribute to consensus code.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I don't think do we think they need to have run a node on other networks? I wouldn't say so.
I think if the answer to A, C, and D are no's, then like they better have some experience in running a node on other networks, right? Otherwise, they'll be like complete first timers. They don't know anything about running a node.
That's a great point. So,
so if A, C, and D are no, B should be yes.
with either A, C, or D. Sorry, let me just, or B true. So it's like either, it's either all of A, C, or D, or it's B really strongly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, and E, we're saying probably this one doesn't have to be true. I think this is mostly information gathering because it sounds like like, even if they do, many people won't have
Yeah.
the mistake, and we need to come up with another answer. I would call all of E to G opportunistic criteria. So required would be the A, C, D, or B. Yes. Or maybe I'll just call them weighted criteria, where it's like they add to your score, but they maybe don't like qualify you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Those would be E, F, G. E, F, G maybe?
E, F, G.
And then how do we want to consider H and I? I would maybe call H required also.
Yeah, it should be required.
So, but it's and the political jurisdiction, is that
Not required, but like highly preferred kind of a situation, I think.
another weighted criteria?
I think, but like Vishal pointed, perhaps some locations kind of stop the logic diagram then and there, right? Like,
embargo.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Like
So-
embargoed country.
Correct.
Like if the operator is in like North Korea, then obviously no. But
Yeah.
if it's
And unfortunately, we don't have enough resources to like do that research to build that trust with an operator based in North Korea. So, like some answers to this question will bar them completely, but otherwise, it's like a nice to have to like decentralize it geographically, etc., etc.
Why wouldn't we let someone in North Korea run a verification node?
I mean,
Like, I
then
can see why we wouldn't want them running consensus, right? Like arguably they could maybe insert something malicious, but like I don't think we should be categorically excluding people from North Korea if they're really trying to.
well, that'll, I don't know, like some of the exchanges will have an issue with that, and we'll have to kind of,
Oh, that's why.
yeah, I don't think that's a position we want to be in.
Oh, that's great to know, Vishal. So yeah, are there a series of jurisdictions that exchanges will say if there's a node operator there, they don't want to work with us?
I'm assuming that. I haven't read that, but I feel like that's probably would be the case. Like the Coinbases and Binances of the world would kind of want to know where our nodes are. Don't you think so?
This is certainly worth looking into. I was the one that had to complete most of those exchange questionnaires, like when the integration goes through. And I don't recall any questions about the locations of nodes, and I don't recall them asking if we had nodes in like sort of contentious regions. So it's possible. Like I think that's a good flag, and we should check. But I actually didn't see that come up. Like I don't remember Coinbase asking us that, for example. It's possible that maybe that was something they covered with Anouk though separately. So maybe we could ask him.
Yeah, you can ask him.
Okay. Is it so? So the outstanding issue on the node selection criteria was coming up with a selection criteria, which we have drafted here, I guess you could say.
Yes, thanks.
And we needed a decision on the existing decision on current operators requesting slots. The biggest one of that was QuantNode, you said. Were there any other big ones that you needed decisions on?
No, that was the only one right now that's pending.
Okay. So maybe would you mind kind of going through the criteria and then seeing how quant node scores. Well, I guess, yeah, so the best score you would get is like 1, 2, 3, 4. A passing score is 4, it seems, with this criteria, if we give these things just a score of 1. Where existing experience with Flow would kind of rate you 3 to 1 to just having experience with another network, right? Like that kind of conceptually makes sense. That would give you a significant benefit, but then there's still 4 opportunities here.
Yeah.
To have the weighting sort of corrected up to 4 and beyond if you only had B as true.
Right.
So maybe you want to just see how quant node scores and then we can
Yeah.
Yeah, we could give it a passing score and then just say that like slots are given based on rank as slots become available or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
ACD true, B true. So B is true for them, so that's 1, right? That's how I do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So sorry.
1 there.
Got 1 there, and then H we think is another point, so 2, and then down here you had E, F, G, H. But how should the weighting work on? Like for the ones that are required, I'm giving it a score of 1. The weighting, it would almost be like 1 and a multiplier, you know? So it's like even if, for example, F were true, assets under management, that's still only like I don't know, a 0.7 or something. Like I don't know if the second criteria ever gets you to a full 1 unless you really have done like a phenomenal job of it, and then it gets you 1.2 or sorry, do you get what I'm saying? Like I just think the ones that aren't critical need multipliers. So what would maybe those ones be?
So I was thinking instead like the required ones, we don't include that in the equation, because if you don't have the required, then that's it. There's no point in even continuing.
Yeah, that's true.
So like what you have is either ACD is true or B is true, then only then we proceed. And then for the other ones is when we just weight them equally, 1 each.
Okay, so from A to D, this is a required categories.
Right.
Of categories below.
Correct.
Okay. So in the context where it's weighted, how would we?
Can we just do like 1 each and then see?
Yeah, for now we could start off with 1 each, I think.
Oh, so it would just be a binary. It wouldn't be like a if they have broader asset.
We will just keep a threshold for the assets, right? I feel like if let's say the assets under management is beyond like 1 million, let's say, then it's a yes, otherwise it's a no.
Yeah, like I would say like something like 5 times the minimum stake or something. So if they want to run an execution node, perhaps like the threshold there would be slightly higher or something.
Yeah. Okay. And then co-marketing, the threshold here would need to probably be some sort of like audience number, right? Like the addressable market that they would be adding this marketing opportunity to.
Yeah.
So something like, can we call it like 100,000 users or 10,000 devs, maybe?
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, this is fairly self-sufficient.
Yeah, the on-call support is probably more of a binary thing.
Yeah.
And this also a binary thing. So probably those others. Oh, I'm sorry. When I added this line, it numbered them instead of lettered them. So now
It's okay.
I'll fix this after, but
No problem.
okay. So does that give you the answers that you need?
Uh,
The score that we have for them now, I think based on that is they pass the above one, and then they get
yes.
a very strong 1 here. That's more than 5 here.
To
So yes to this one you said, and yes to jurisdiction. So I guess the only thing to figure out is there a compelling co-marketing opportunity? But even still, it seems like they're pretty strong candidates. So
they're already getting 3 out of those 5, I believe.
okay.
So excluding the marketing, or
Excluding the marketing, and
that's pretty good.
so there was 5 of those, right? The weighted ones, or sorry, the non-required ones, and I think they're getting 3 out of those.
3 for sure, and probably the new jurisdiction one you thought.
Yes. Yeah. So at least 3 out of 5 they're getting, and then we could clarify the geography again. But I feel like 3 should qualify them, right?
100%. Yes.
So the only thing that is problematic about this is the existing operators who already have requests in, because there's a whole bunch of people who probably also meet this same criteria and who've been in the line for like literally years. So I think we do, like, there's something, slots are given based on rank. As slots become available, we probably do need to go through the work of ranking all the other operators. And then if QuantNode is still at the top and they've been within like the last 10 slots or something, then maybe we put them in first. But I don't think we can't slide them in front of everybody else, because for sure there's dozens of people, I think, who are also interested in consensus nodes and would be not happy if the process started sort of after they had already completed the old process.
So from what I know, like there were a lot of applicants to run nodes that we had over the years, but Vishal and I kind of went through the list a few months ago, and we reached out to a bunch of those. We reached out via emails. Not a lot of people kind of came back. I think they had sort of filed those applications or like sort of shown more interest when the market was kind of booming early last year or something. But since then, we haven't seen a lot of new requests. But I think we still have a database where we marked some of the people who had responded to our emails, so we can look through that and kind of rank them out based on this criteria. But I would not be too worried about like a bunch of people waiting to sort of run nodes or be in line.
Okay, awesome. That's great news. Okay. So then I guess just in terms of next steps, to be really concrete here, because we said we had we had an outstanding issue. So we have figured out how to evaluate nodes for slots. We think QuantNode does pass, and that seems to be the only operator currently in question. But we do need to publish the selection criteria scoring matrix. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah, this criteria that we just discussed.
Share with node operator repo. Yeah, just like publish it so that other folks know why QuantNode was added. So that, I would say, is the next step. I think I also at one point said that I was going to do that, but if you want to do it, Vishal, you can also delegate it to me because you're in charge now. So who would you like to do this selection criteria thing?
If you have cycles, then it'll be great. If you could do it.
I think I can probably. Yep. I'll let you know, but I think this week's okay now that the panel's done. And then I think this addressing node leases, transition off old ones, and placement strategy for new requests, let's put that on the next agenda, because that's certainly a big question. So go back to that one. And then the other section was kind of just to determine what we would come up with, what we would discuss in the next meeting. So I think this existing issue of updating on the flow price should also definitely go on our next agenda.
Yeah.
And I guess just which of these questions do we think we have good answers for versus we need to discuss next time, if we could triage them? I don't feel like we have good answers for any of them, to be all honest.
If I can say a word from here. So I think like what we want, including Blueberry, is just transparency. Like since they ask about like the foundation and the Dapper Labs lit and the announcement for that, I know like there is a lot of preparation for that. So that's why I guess it's not yet announced yet. But like still, I think like they require more transparency is the first thing. Another thing is including they want to know about like I know like we've switched the Explorer from FlowScan to FlowDiver, right? Like, but like probably like some feature similar to what Etherscan does is to tag Foundation's wallet or tag I don't know, like maybe Team's wallet, so people know like what is going on. Cause like I know there is people have built a Twitter bot called Flow Well Alert. So as long as there is a big transaction, like the token has been sending from this wallet to another, so like a tweet will be posted. So like I see tons of tweets like that, and so we don't know what's going on. Like why this wallet is sending like 100,000 tokens to that wallet periodically. So things like that. So I think like more transparency and more user-friendly features like a name tag on FlowDiver is so that's something like on my mind right now. Yeah, and other things maybe like so still mentioning about the retirement of FlowScan. I actually talked to Yonder. Like I know like he is a only that behind the FlowScan. He has spent a ton of time and a lot of resources, including the money out of his own pocket to support the FlowScan to live. But the weird thing is like he doesn't get much support from the foundation or from the, so like he cannot afford the prices anymore. So he has no other choice but to shut it down. It's really, I mean, it's really, it's really sad to me and to the community side, because I think like FlowScan, they have a good brand, they have good names, they have good domain, So like they have been for quite a long time, and the FlowScan has been integrated into the exchanges and integrated with Circle, integrated with like CMC and CoinGecko, a lot of things. So we need to do tons of work to get those things replaced. So I don't know why like some public goods or some Flow native projects, they cannot get enough support from foundation. So that's my idea. Yeah, maybe some of the out of context, but like it's my input.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think actually discussing the protocol for, the protocol for getting funding is probably among, I'm going to add that as a whole separate point, actually.
Well, especially in my opinion, is like they are Flow native projects. They are not from anywhere else, and they have been here for quite a long time with good reputation, and then they are gone. So it's a really a headache and also hurt to the Flow as a whole.
Yeah, totally.
Another thing is like probably just a suggestion from my side, like can we announce a meeting, especially the TWG and also the governance meeting to more audiences, maybe post on Discord or Telegram or on Twitter, so more people can join and more stakeholders since they can join to discuss. And yeah,
definitely we can. I think should just sort of formalizing how we roll these meetings out. So maybe would you mind just sort of sharing like where you think if we're going to post each time to like Discord and Twitter and the forum, it'd be great to you just have like a standard for that. But totally, Johnny, I think we can start bringing more folks into these. Okay, so we have lots to talk about next week, or next month, I mean. But I think this is a really good start. So I'll take a stab at answering some of these questions from Bluebird, but I think the dominant message that I'll send there is that they're flagging what we're deciding are sort of like the big next items for the governance working group to discuss. So I'll just encourage them to join, because I think, yeah, there's lots of places here where we need to come up with better answers. Johnny, thank you so much for joining. Your input was really invaluable, and I really appreciate you jumping in on where things help and don't. So yeah, please join us again next time. Would really love to see you. Thank you all so much for the time. I think that gets us through the agenda. So I'll post the notes on GitHub and make an agenda for the next one, and we'll chat last Tuesday of November. So see y'all in a month.
Lovely.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Johnny. See you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.